Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I'm going to be giving you my first impressions on the Turning Tides DLC that we'll be seeing on December 11th. Now, at the moment you can play it in CTE, the two maps that are coming out on December 11th, and then there's two more maps that are coming out in January. Also, the Operations game mode is not currently playable in CTE. We've only been able to play one mode on each map. We have Conquest on Achibaba, and then on Cape Hell, or Cape Hells, however it's said, we have the Conquest Assault game mode. So we can't really test out those maps on other modes. So I'm giving you my impression based on what's available so far. Let's start off by talking about the weapons in general. These are guns that you'll be able to bring into even the base vanilla part of Battlefield. So even if the DLC content dies off or dies down in popularity, you'll still be able to take the weapons into the base game mode and potentially wreck players with your new favorite guns, provided that any of these new weapons are your favorite guns, and I'm willing to bet that they probably won't be. After having spent considerable time with each weapon, there really aren't any of them that stand out or make me want to come back to using them. I think maybe the most effective one that I was using was the new M1917 machine gun with 250 rounds. The problem is that it's not as accurate as comparable machine guns, and the rate of fire is very slow. So you might never have to reload this weapon, which is kind of cool, and you can just spam fire all day without it really overheating. But the downside is that as soon as you go up against a competent player with decent damage per second, you're probably not going to do so well. That being said, it's still a fun weapon to run with. I just wouldn't put it in the competitive category. The next gun that might perk your ears up is the assault weapon, that is the machine pistol M1912/P.16 Storm. This is a long weapon name. I'm just going to call it the machine pistol or the M1912, whatever you want to call it. It looks like something from a sci-fi film when you put these weird decorations on them. It's got an insanely high rate of fire. I think its damage per second is higher than the Automatico, and you're thinking like, great, that's all we need is a weapon that does higher DPS than the Automatico and has great hipfire accuracy. I agree. I'm not really sure what DICE was thinking when they put this weapon in the game. That being said, the reload on it is so painful that I think the Automatico ultimately will still be a more viable and more adaptable weapon. So I don't think too many people are going to use this over the Automatico. Then we have the Carcano M91 Carbine, which is an interesting weapon because I think people are seeing it as an alternative to the M95, a weapon that performs much like the sniper rifles in previous Battlefield games. No sweet spot, just highest damage up close, and further you get from your target, the less damage it does. It has a high rate of fire, so basically it should be a quick engagement, sort of an aggressive style weapon, the aggressive recon or the aggressive scout class. The downside is that it has no optical option, so you're using iron sights. If you like iron sights, then this is good news for you. The M95 did have an optic though, which made aiming with it a bit easier in my opinion. Because it only has an iron sight option and no sort of sweet spot mechanic, I found this weapon quite difficult to use, as you're required to either two-shot your opponent while they're usually jumping around or on the move, or you're going to need to headshot them, something much more difficult to do with iron sights. Again, this could be a weapon for the extremely skilled sniper. If you have no problem hitting all your shots, then this could be one of the more effective sniper rifles in the game. But again, iron sights are just kind of no bueno for me. Then we have the Type 38 Arisaka, another bolt action rifle. This one does have a sweet spot mechanic, but again, no optic variants. And I don't know if they're going to add optical variants at some later point, if the CTE is just sort of what's finished at the moment and they're still working on some scoped versions of this. But again, I'm just not a huge fan of iron sight rifles. Then for medic, we have the Farquhar Hill. I have no idea if I'm even getting close to the right pronunciation of this weapon's name. This is a DMR style weapon. It doesn't have the highest rate of fire or the fastest time to kill out of the medic rifles. So if you're looking for a competitive close quarter rifle, this won't be it. It does, however, have a magazine of 20 rounds, which gives you a decent amount of damage over time, or the ability to deal with multiple targets. And it's got a really cool magazine reload with a neat little drum mag at the bottom of the weapon. It comes with either iron sights or an optical variation. I think it's an okay medic rifle, but it really does line up with a lot of the pre-existing rifles in the game, and it kind of hits sort of middle grounds for me. And for the most part, I think you either have to go for highest DPS medic rifle out there, or for something that's incredibly accurate and good at long range. And this is sort of mid-range, not my favorite option for the medic class, but again, it is kind of a cool and interesting looking weapon. Coming back to the assault class, we have the M1917 Trench Carbine. This is kind of a cool looking weapon, and it certainly brings a different style of weapon to the assault class. The only problem is that it's probably not that good in general. It can fire 41 shots before you even need to think about reloading this weapon, but the rounds are small, they don't do a huge amount of damage, and the rate of fire is slow enough that you're going to have to spend a lot of time aiming down sight at your target. If they have any of the higher DPS assault weapons in the game, you're going to lose that firefight. You may have the ammo to deal with multiple targets before you need to reload, but the chances of you surviving to actually use that ammo become significantly less because of the slow DPS and semi-difficult mechanics of this weapon. Shooting semi-automatic weapons is always going to be more difficult than a fully automatic weapon in a game like this, as you just have to spam as fast as you can while staying on target. It's an added bit of skill, and you don't really get any reward for it with this weapon. And so that's all 6 of the new weapons. They all look really cool. They have interesting reload animations. They're all done with the same production quality as you would expect from the rest of the weapons, but say compared to the Russian DLC where we got like maybe 3 weapons I would consider replacing some of my favorite guns with, this one came with 0 weapons that I would consider using over what I'm already using in the game. So a bit disappointing. Maybe DICE will balance some of them in the future to make them a little bit more competitive. Now when it comes to the 2 new maps, I really like the look of Achibaba. It's a different style of trench warfare. It looks badass. I like the fact that we now have Anzacs as part of the assaulting forces here, and I like it. It's a fun layout. There are some problems with it though. Some of the spawn points, especially like on D flag, sometimes you'll spawn in and it'll put you right in the middle of the assaulting team, so you won't even survive for a second. So there's some instantaneous spawn death issues with it. But in addition to that, I played maybe 3 games on it that ended up in a spawn cap situation where the enemy team was completely unable to get out of their spawn while the other team held all of the points. In my opinion, there's 2 fixes you could make for this map. One would be to redesign the spawn location to have a better defensive properties, maybe an overhang so it can look down on people trying to spawn camp them, and giving them more routes to escape from their deployment. The other fix would be to restrict the out of bounds areas for the other team so that they can't get quite so close to the enemy team's basic spawn location, giving them more of a chance to escape. Either way, it's not good. It can be airburst shelled and just absolutely obliterated anybody spawning there. Will DICE make the necessary changes to fix this map before its release in a very short period of time? Highly unlikely, especially based on the Russian DLC. We got early access to that, gave pretty much universal feedback across the board about some of the maps, and those maps were never fixed either. So I don't have a lot of faith in DICE to make the necessary changes to this map. It'll still be playable and fun, but the spawn camp situations are going to clear out servers for sure. Then we have Cape Hell or Cape Hells, which is the more vehicle-oriented map. This one actually has a bit of naval warfare options in it, as the assaulting team, at least on Conquest Assault, gets a destroyer, and this destroyer is very cool. We did, however, notice some unfortunate issues again with spawn camping here, as the enemy team's best option to try and take out a destroyer is to get into one of their little patrol boats and fire torpedoes at us. Well, we quickly found ourselves in a position where we could basically just shell the enemy patrol boats as soon as somebody spawned in it, making it very hard for them to take us out. So again, there was an issue with this. There might be easier ways to defeat the destroyer once players figure it out, but while we were playing in the CTE anyway, people seemed kind of oblivious to it, and it was very easy to just shell people and wreck them with the destroyer. That being said, the destroyer looks cool, and I'm looking forward to more maps that take advantage of the naval combat mechanics. I think they could be fun if better designed. When it comes to the actual land combat on this map, I wasn't enjoying it that much. It's kind of long range, very bleak and bland topography, nothing interesting to look at, and all the capture points kind of feel the same. So I wasn't enjoying it all that much. Definitely my least favorite of the 2 so far, but it does offer that interesting option of the destroyer there. There's also airplanes too, so if you don't want to play infantry, you can fly around. We'll see how this map plays out. I think it will probably be really enjoyable on the operations game mode with the beach assault in the start of it, because without it being in operations, players can basically just avoid the beach assault altogether, or it just doesn't have the same effect as it might have in the operations mode. So again, looking forward to this map on a different game mode. Wasn't a big fan of it in Conquest Assault. There's also the new hero class in the game. I wasn't able to play as the hero class, but I did see it in combat, and it's kind of cool. This class can call in artillery strikes. You can put down a spawn beacon for the whole team to use. It's got a cool grenade launcher as a primary weapon and a double barrel shotgun as a backup. It's a neat looking hero class, and I like the idea of a hero class that has a little bit more team-oriented mechanics around it rather than just pure kill machine. So that's kind of cool. I like that addition to the game, and I think most players will enjoy the new hero class. Overall, my thoughts on this DLC so far are that the weapons are a bit of a letdown. You're probably not going to be using them too much unless DICE balances them differently. The Destroyer element is a cool new element to the game, and I hope it can be explored a bit more in some of the other maps that are coming out in January, as I don't think it played out particularly well on this one. I'm most looking forward or hopeful that the operations game modes play out really well on these maps. We are getting an operation once this launches on the 11th, so that'll be fun to try out, and hopefully it's better balanced than it was in the Russian DLC. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.